Deep in the heart of the whispering woods, where the moonlight danced through the treetops and the stars whispered secrets to the earth, there lived a small, gentle hedgehog named Mabel. Mabel's quills shimmered faintly under the moonlight, not because they were special, but because Mabel always made sure they were clean and polished. She was known far and wide in the forest for her creativity and kind heart, a combination that made her home a place of wonder. Mabel lived in a snug, hollow log at the edge of the forest clearing. Her home was filled with bits and pieces of the forest, shiny pebbles from the brook, feathers left behind by kind birds, and colourful scraps of leaves she used to craft tiny treasures. She adored creating things from flower garlands to little trinkets, and her favourite time to work was during the stillness of the night. You see, while most of the forest animals slept soundly in their nests, dens and burrows, Mabel came alive with ideas. Her tiny paws would scurry to and fro, weaving, stitching and gluing together pieces of the forest to create something magical. The nighttime held a special kind of quiet for her, a kind that buzzed with the excitement of possibility. One night, as she looked out from her hollow log at the moonlit clearing, a thought began to bloom in her mind. It had started as a whisper, a gentle idea that grew louder and more beautiful as she thought about it. Mabel had so many creations she'd crafted, but she wanted to share them in a way that felt meaningful. That's when the idea of the midnight market was born. What if... Mabel murmured to herself, her tiny paws clutching a shimmering pine cone she had painted gold. I opened a market at midnight? A market where my friends could come and not trade seeds or berries, but something much more special. Dreams and stories. She clapped her paws together, the sound a soft pattering, and her quills quivered with excitement. The more she thought about it, the more the idea grew. Dreams were something everyone had, and stories were the treasures of the forest passed down through generations. Mabel could already imagine her friends gathering under the glow of lanterns, their whispers carrying through the night air as they shared their most cherished tales in exchange for her handmade treasures. But a market wasn't something you just opened overnight, even a magical one. There was much to be done. Mabel spent the following days preparing. She gathered fallen branches and twisted them into beautiful arches for the market stalls. She hung jars filled with fireflies to light the clearing and set up tables covered in moss and wildflowers to hold her creations. The clearing itself seemed to come alive as she worked. Birds chirped encouragingly from the treetops, and squirrels brought her acorns, which she polished and turned into tiny decorative bowls. Even the breezes seemed to swirl softly around her, carrying the faint scent of lavender and mint from her garden. When everything was ready, Mabel stood in the middle of her clearing, surrounded by glowing firefly jars and tables filled with her handmade wonders. Flower crowns that sparkled with dew, necklaces made from polished stones, and little dream jars filled with moonlight. "This will be perfect," Mabel whispered, her heart swelling with anticipation. "But now, I just need to invite my friends." With her paws full of golden leaves she'd written on, Mabel scampered through the forest, slipping invitations into burrows, tucking them into tree hollows, and even leaving them on the wind for the birds to carry. The invitations were simple but enchanting. "You're invited to the Midnight Market, a place where dreams and stories come alive. Meet me under the stars in the clearing. Bring your most cherished tale or dream to trade." When night fell and the moon hung high in the sky, Mabel returned to her clearing. She lit the last of the firefly jars and waited, her quills trembling with excitement and just a hint of nervousness. Soon, soft rustles began to echo through the trees. One by one, her friends started to arrive. A shy deer stepping delicately through the bushes, a family of rabbits hopping into the clearing, and even the wise old owl gliding silently from above. The midnight market had begun. The midnight market was ready to begin, and Mabel's heart raced with excitement as her forest friends stepped into the glowing clearing. The firefly jars cast a warm golden light that shimmered against the tables of handmade treasures, and the soft buzz of anticipation filled the air. "Welcome, everyone," Mabel said, her voice trembling slightly with nervousness but full of joy. She stood on a small tree stump in the center of the clearing, her quills quivering in the soft breeze. "Thank you all for coming to the very first midnight market. This isn't a market for trading berries or seeds. Tonight we're trading dreams and stories. Share something meaningful and take home a treasure." The animals murmured with delight. Mabel's market was unlike anything they had ever experienced. Among the crowd was Basil, a shy fox with a sleek orange coat. He padded cautiously toward Mabel, his tail twitching nervously. "Mabel," he asked softly, "how do we trade dreams?" "I'm not sure I understand." Mabel smiled warmly and held up a small, delicate jar. It shimmered faintly as if it contained starlight. "This is a dream jar," she explained. "If you close your eyes and think of a dream you've had, something happy or exciting, it will fill the jar. Then you can trade it for anything you like here at the market." Basil tilted his head, intrigued. He stepped closer, took the dream jar from Mabel's paws, and closed his eyes. The clearing grew silent as everyone watched. A faint glow began to fill the jar, swirling like golden mist. When Basil opened his eyes, he saw his dream captured inside, a vision of himself running through a meadow at sunrise, the grass brushing against his fur as he played with a group of fox cubs. "It worked!" Basil exclaimed, his tail wagging with excitement. Mabel nodded. "Now you can trade it for something here." Basil walked over to the tables, his eyes scanning the treasures. He chose a necklace made from smooth river stones, each painted with tiny stars. "This is perfect," he said, slipping it around his neck. "Thank you, Mabel." Soon, more animals stepped forward, eager to join the fun. A group of rabbits approached, led by Poppy, their lively leader. Poppy's long ears twitched with excitement as she inspected the treasures on the table. "I'll share a story," she declared proudly, holding her tiny paws together. The rabbits gathered around as Poppy began to tell her tale. "Once, in the deepest part of Whispering Woods, there was a secret garden filled with golden carrots. Only the cleverest rabbits could find it, and my great-grandmother was one of them. She used her wits and her bravery to uncover the garden and bring back enough carrots to feed our whole family through the winter." The crowd cheered as Poppy finished her story, and Mabel handed her a flower crown made of daisies and lavender. "For your courage and creativity," Mabel said with a smile. The midnight market grew livelier with each passing moment. Firefly darted between the tables, their light adding to the magic of the evening. The wise old owl, Professor Hoot, perched on a low branch, observing the scene with great interest. "Miss Mabel," he said, his deep voice cutting through the cheerful chatter, "may I trade a riddle for one of your dream jars?" Mabel's eyes lit up. "Of course, Professor. What's your riddle?" The owl cleared his throat. "What has roots as nobody sees, is taller than trees, up up it goes, and yet it never grows." The animals murmured among themselves, trying to solve the riddle. Finally, a young squirrel named Pip shouted, "A mountain?" "Correct," boomed Professor Hoot, chuckling softly. He took a dream jar and filled it with a memory of soaring over the forest under a full moon, the wind rushing through his feathers. In exchange, he chose a wooden wind chime that tinkled softly in the breeze. As the market bustled with activity, Mabel noticed a timid hedgehog standing at the edge of the clearing. Her quills were shorter than Mabel's, and her eyes darted nervously as she watched the other animals. "Hello there," Mabel said gently, walking over to her. "What's your name?" "I'm Juniper," the hedgehog whispered. "I'm not sure I belong here. I don't have any exciting dreams or stories to share." Mabel smiled warmly and took Juniper's paw. "Everyone belongs here. Dreams and stories don't have to be big or exciting. They just have to be yours. Why don't you try filling a dream jar?" Juniper hesitated, but with Mabel's encouragement, she closed her eyes. The jar began to glow faintly, filling with soft blue light. When Juniper opened her eyes, the dream inside was simple but beautiful. She was curled up under a tree with her mother, warm and safe as the rain fell gently outside. "Ah, that's a lovely dream," Mabel said. "What would you like to trade it for?" Juniper picked a small pendant shaped like a leaf, its edges painted with gold. She slipped it around her neck and smiled shyly. "Thank you, Mabel." The market buzzed with laughter and chatter as more animals joined in. A family of otters shared stories of their underwater adventures. A deer traded a dream of running through misty fields. And a robin sang a melody so sweet it brought tears to Mabel's eyes. Each trade filled the air with warmth and joy, and Mabel's heart swelled as she saw her friends connecting in ways they never had before. The midnight market was a magical success, and it was just getting started. As the midnight market thrived, the energy in the clearing grew magical, almost electric. Mabel's vision was coming to life in a way she had only dreamed of. Laughter rang out as animals traded dreams, stories, and small treasures. But Mabel noticed something peculiar. A soft, silvery mist was beginning to creep into the clearing. It wasn't an ordinary mist. It shimmered faintly, almost like the dream jars themselves. Mabel's quills bristled with curiosity as the mist curled gently around her feet. "This is new," she murmured, glancing around. Professor Hoot fluttered down from his perch, his eyes gleaming with wisdom. "Ah, Mabel," he said, his voice rich with intrigue. "It seems your midnight market has attracted a little extra magic tonight." "What kind of magic?" Mabel asked, her paws gripping a dream jar tightly. "The kind that brings new opportunities and challenges," the owl replied cryptically. Before Mabel could respond, a gentle hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing moment. The mist parted, revealing a pathway that hadn't been there before. The path shimmered with tiny stars, leading deeper into the forest. The crowd of animals fell silent, staring in awe. "Where does it go?" Basil the fox asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Mabel admitted, stepping closer to the path. "But I think we're about to find out." Without hesitation, Mabel took a deep breath and started down the path, her lantern lighting the way. A small group of animals followed her: Basil, Juniper the hedgehog, Poppy the rabbit, and Pip the squirrel. Even Professor Hoot decided to join, flying low above the group. The path twisted and turned, leading them into a part of the forest none of them had ever seen before. The trees here were ancient, their trunks so wide that 3 animals could barely wrap their arms around them. Their branches arched overhead, forming a canopy that sparkled with tiny lights like stars caught in the leaves. "This is incredible," Juniper whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. Mabel nodded, but her curiosity only grew. The path ended at a clearing even larger than the one where the midnight market was held. In the center stood a towering tree, its bark glowing faintly with a silvery light. Around its roots were dozens of tiny, glowing doors. "What is this place?" Poppy asked, hopping forward. Professor Hoot landed on a low branch of the glowing tree. "If I'm not mistaken," he said, "this is the heart of the forest. It's a place of pure magic, hidden from all but those who are invited." "Invited by who?" Basil asked. As if in answer, one of the tiny doors swung open, and out stepped a small, shimmering figure. It was a forest sprite, no taller than Mabel's paw, with wings that glimmered like moonlight on water. "Welcome," the sprite said in a voice as soft as the breeze. "We've been watching your midnight market, Mabel. It's something truly special." Mabel blinked in surprise. "You've been watching?" "Why?" The sprite smiled. "Because it's rare to find someone who values dreams and stories as much as we do. You've brought the forest together in a way we haven't seen in centuries, and now we want to invite you to trade with us." "Trade with you?" Mabel repeated, her quills quivering with excitement. "Yes," the sprite replied. "We have our own treasures to offer, but the trades must be fair. Dreams for dreams, stories for stories." Mabel's friends exchanged excited glances. "Let's do it," Pip said, his tail twitching eagerly. The sprite clapped its tiny hands and the other doors began to open. Dozens of sprites emerged, each carrying tiny jars or scrolls. The clearing sparkled with their presence, and the animals felt as though they'd stepped into a dream. The first sprite approached Mabel, holding out a jar filled with swirling golden light. "This is a dream of flying above the clouds during a meteor shower," it said. "What will you trade for it?" Mabel thought for a moment, then offered her own jar, which contained a dream of walking through a field of flowers that sang as the wind blew. The sprite inspected it carefully, then nodded. "A fair trade," it said, handing over the jar. One by one, the animals stepped forward to trade with the sprites. Juniper, still shy but growing more confident, offered a simple story about a rainy afternoon spent with her mother. In return, she received a scroll containing a tale of a magical waterfall that granted wishes. Basil traded a dream of chasing fireflies under the moonlight for a tiny necklace made of frost crystals that shimmered like diamonds. Poppy shared a story about her great-grandmother's carrot garden and received a magical seed that, when planted, would grow into a tree bearing glowing fruit. Pip offered a dream of climbing the tallest tree in the forest and watching the sunrise. In return, he received a tiny flute that, when played, summoned the sound of a babbling brook. The trades continued, each one filling the air with an indescribable sense of wonder. Mabel watched with pride as her friends grew braver with each trade, their confidence blossoming like flowers in the spring. But as the last sprite prepared to leave, a shadow fell over the clearing. The glowing lights dimmed, and the animals huddled closer together. "What's happening?" Poppy whispered. The sprites looked worried, their tiny faces pale. "It's the Shadow Trader," one of them said. "The Shadow Trader?" Mabel asked, her quills standing on end. "He's an ancient force," the sprite explained. "He thrives on stealing dreams and stories, but he never trades fairly. He takes more than he gives, and once he arrives, it's hard to make him leave." The Shadow Trader emerged from the darkness, a towering figure cloaked in shadow, with glowing red eyes that pierced through the dim light. His voice was deep and rumbling like distant thunder. "I've come to trade," he said, his tone dripping with menace. The animals shrank back, but Mabel stood her ground. "This is a fair market," she said firmly. "If you want to trade, you'll have to follow the rules." The shadow trader laughed, a sound that sent shivers down everyone's spines. "We'll see about that," he said, stepping closer. Mabel felt a surge of fear, but she took a deep breath and reminded herself of what her market stood for: fairness, trust, and the magic of sharing. She looked around at her friends, their faces filled with fear and determination, and knew she wasn't alone. Gathering her courage, Mabel faced the shadow trader and said, "We'll trade with you, but only if you play by our rules. No stealing, no tricks, just fair trades." The shadow trader's eyes narrowed, but after a long pause he said, "Very well. Let's see what you have to offer." The shadow trader's looming presence cast a chill over the enchanted clearing. His towering silhouette seemed to swallow the light, and his glowing red eyes flickered as though daring anyone to challenge him. The animals huddled closer together, their unease palpable. Mabel, though her quills trembled slightly, stepped forward. Her small frame seemed almost insignificant compared to the shadow trader's ominous form, but her voice rang out steady and clear. "This market exists to bring the forest together," she said firmly. "It's built on fairness and trust, and those are rules that even you must follow." The shadow trader tilted his head, his expression unreadable. "Fairness and trust," he rumbled. "Such quaint notions. Let's see if they hold up under pressure." With a wave of his shadowy hand, he conjured a dream jar unlike any the animals had seen before. It was dark and swirling, filled with shapes that seemed to twist and writhe. "This," he said, "is a dream of power, a vision of ruling the forest where everyone bows to your every whim. Who dares trade for it?" The clearing fell silent. The animals exchanged uncertain glances, the allure of the jar mingling with their fear of its unsettling contents. Mabel stepped forward. "That's not the kind of dream we trade here," she said, her tone unwavering. The shadow trader's laughter echoed through the clearing. "Are you afraid of ambition, little hedgehog? Perhaps you're too small to understand its value." Mabel took a deep breath, her quills bristling. "Ambition isn't the same as greed," she replied. "Your dream may be powerful, but it's tainted by selfishness. We trade dreams and stories that bring joy and connection, not domination." The shadow trader's glowing eyes narrowed. "If you reject my dream, what will you offer instead?" Mabel held up her lantern, its warm glow cutting through the mist. Inside was her most cherished dream, a memory of the very first time she'd thought of the midnight market. It was filled with hope, laughter, and the vision of animals coming together under the stars. "This is my offer," Mabel said. "It's a dream of community where everyone's unique gifts make the whole forest stronger. It's not about power over others, it's about lifting each other up." The shadow trader stared at the jar, his expression unreadable. For a long moment, the clearing was so silent that the rustling of leaves seemed deafening. Then, to everyone's surprise, the shadow trader's shoulders relaxed, and the glow of his red eyes softened. "You remind me of something I once knew," he murmured almost to himself. "Long ago I too valued connection, but I lost my way." The animals watched in astonishment as the shadow trader held out the dark dream jar. "Take this," he said. "Let it remind you of the dangers of losing sight of what truly matters. And in return, I will accept your dream." Mabel hesitated for a moment before stepping forward. She placed her jar in the shadow trader's outstretched hand, and he handed her the dark jar in return. The moment the exchange was complete, the shadow trader's form began to shimmer and fade. "Thank you, little hedgehog," he said, his voice growing faint. "You've reminded me of something precious. Perhaps one day I'll return, not as a trader, but as a friend." With that, he disappeared, and the clearing was bathed in light once more. The animals erupted into cheers, their relief and joy palpable. Professor Hoot fluttered down to Mabel's side, his eyes twinkling with pride. "You've done something remarkable tonight, Mabel," he said. "You've shown us all the true power of dreams and stories." The sprites, who had been watching the exchange with awe, stepped forward to thank Mabel. "You've proven yourself a true guardian of the forest's magic," said the sprite who had first welcomed her. "We would like to leave you a gift." The sprites gathered around the glowing tree, their tiny hands raised. Together, they wove their magic into the tree's branches, which began to shimmer with golden light. From the highest branch, a single glowing fruit dropped into Mabel's paws. "This is a lumina fruit," the sprite explained. "Plant its seeds and you will grow a tree that shines with the light of hope and unity. It will be a beacon for all who seek connection and fairness." Mabel's heart swelled with gratitude. "Thank you," she said, her voice filled with emotion. As the animals began to leave the clearing, they each carried a renewed sense of wonder and unity. Juniper, the hedgehog, who had started the night shy and uncertain, walked with her head held high. Basil, the fox, who had once sought only the best trades for himself, now spoke of sharing his treasures with others. Mabel stood in the center of the clearing, holding the lumina fruit and the shadow trader's jar. The midnight market had always been her dream, but tonight it had become something even greater, a symbol of what could be achieved when creatures came together with trust and kindness. As the last of the animals disappeared into the forest, Mabel turned to Professor Hoot. "Do you think we'll see the shadow trader again?" she asked. The wise old owl tilted his head thoughtfully. "Perhaps," he said, "but if he does return, I suspect he'll come not as a shadow, but as a light." Mabel smiled, her quills softening as a warm breeze rustled through the clearing. She looked up at the stars, feeling a deep sense of peace. The midnight market had faced its greatest challenge and emerged stronger than ever. As the clearing grew quiet, Mabel whispered a silent promise to the forest and its creatures. "This market will always be a place of fairness, magic, and connection." With that, she blew out her lantern and turned toward home, her heart full and her paws light. As the midnight market faded into the quiet embrace of the forest, a sense of serenity settled over the clearing. The glowing tree cast a soft golden light, its gentle radiance wrapping around the clearing like a warm hug. Mabel, now back at her cozy burrow, prepared for a well-deserved rest. But before drifting off, she reflected on the night, feeling gratitude for the unity and connection the market had brought to the forest. "Now, little one, let's take a journey of our own. A journey into rest and peace, just like Mabel's. Close your eyes gently and let your body sink into the soft embrace of your bed. Feel how your blankets wrap around you like a protective cocoon, just as the forest wraps its creatures in safety under the night sky. Take a deep breath in, filling your chest with the cool, fresh air of the midnight market. Imagine the gentle scents of pine needles, wildflowers, and the faint sweetness of freshly baked acorn tarts. Now, breathe out slowly, letting all your worries drift away like leaves carried by a calm stream. Feel your body begin to relax. Your arms grow heavy and soft, like Mabel's gentle quills as she rests in her burrow. Your legs loosen, releasing any tension, as though they're stretching out in a bed of mossy leaves. Picture yourself in the clearing of the midnight market. The glowing tree stands tall and proud, its branches shimmering with golden light. The ground beneath your feet is soft with moss, and a gentle breeze carries the sound of laughter and quiet conversations from the animals who have visited before you. In your mind, you can see the stalls lit by tiny lanterns. Each one is filled with treasures, not just objects, but dreams and stories waiting to be shared. You wander slowly, feeling completely at ease, knowing this is a safe and magical place just for you. The air is cool but not cold, and the sky above sparkles with stars so close you feel you could touch them. The forest seems alive with a peaceful hum, as though it's singing you a lullaby. Let's take a few breaths together, just as the forest breathes. Breathe in deeply. Imagine you're drawing in the glowing light from the tree, filling your body with warmth and calm. Breathe out slowly, letting that warmth spread through you. Picture the golden light swirling around your chest, your arms, your legs, and your toes. Breathe in again, this time feeling the soft earth beneath your feet as it grounds you. Imagine roots gently extending from your body into the ground, connecting you to the strength of the forest. Breathe out, and as you do, let yourself feel lighter. Any thoughts or worries from the day drift away like the mist rising off the forest floor. Imagine now that you're holding a lantern, just like Mabel's. Its glow guides you through the midnight market, and each step you take feels softer than the last. You pass stalls filled with jars of dreams, each one glowing in different colors. One jar catches your eye. Inside, you see a scene of a golden meadow, where the wind whispers through the tall grass, carrying the sound of birdsong. You lift the jar and hold it close, feeling the peace of the meadow wash over you. Another stall offers stories instead of dreams. The vendor, a cheerful squirrel, hands you a book with your name on the cover. You open it, and the words inside sparkle like starlight. The story begins to play in your mind, painting pictures of wonder and adventure. You walk further and find a small fountain, its water shimmering like liquid moonlight. As you lean closer, the reflection in the fountain shows you smiling and happy, surrounded by warmth and love. As the market begins to fade, you find yourself standing under the glowing tree. You reach up and touch one of its golden leaves, and as you do, it transforms into a soft, fluffy cloud. The cloud floats down to you and invites you to sit on it. As soon as you settle in, it lifts gently off the ground. The cloud carries you higher and higher, up above the trees and into the starry sky. It feels as soft as Mabel's moss bed, and as you lay back, you feel completely weightless. From your cloud, you can see the entire forest below, the midnight market glowing like a magical jewel in the darkness. The stars above twinkle just for you, and the moon smiles gently, casting a silvery glow over the scene. You are safe. You are warm. You are loved. As you float, you hear the faint sound of music drifting through the air. It's a lullaby from the market, played on soft flutes and tiny string instruments. The melody wraps around you, its notes as light as feathers, guiding you further into relaxation. The music seems to carry whispers of the market stories, of animals sharing dreams, of kindness and connection, and of the magic that happens when everyone comes together. Let the music fill your mind, each note weaving a soft, comforting blanket around your thoughts. The cloud begins to gently descend, bringing you closer to your bed. As it lowers, it feels as though the entire forest is bidding you good night. The glowing tree's light fades into a soft golden ember, and the sounds of the market grow quieter, like a candle being softly blown out. When your cloud finally touches the ground, it dissolves into your blankets, leaving you cozy and snug. Take a final deep breath in, feeling the warmth of the midnight market still with you. Now, breathe out, letting go of everything else. You are ready to drift into sleep. As your eyes close, you can still hear the faint rustling of leaves, the gentle hum of the forest, and the soft crackle of Mabel's lantern. You are safe. You are peaceful. You are exactly where you need to be. Good night, little one. Sleep well, and let your dreams take you back to the midnight market whenever you wish.